If you clicked on this video, you probably already know who Wolfychu is, but for those who don't, here's a quick introduction. Wolfychu is an animated storytime YouTuber with over 2 million subscribers. Along with that, she also does animatics, along with regular animations, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, if that's animation, then so is this. Wolfychu also got into some drama back in 2018 for faking her voice and using misleading metadata, also known as fake tags. It would almost seem that Wolfychu is a bit of a faker. A good bit of YouTubers came out and defended Wolfychu as it was an easy good guy coin, because, well, most of the arguments on the other team were pretty weak. You know, like, so what if Wolfychu's voice is fake, and she probably shouldn't be faking her tags, but that's a small thing and no one's gonna be seeing that. Now let me end this introduction off with a question. What's drawn, has tentacles in it, and it's something kids shouldn't be watching? If you said hentai, you're wrong. What does it mean if Wolfychu's voice is fake? Well, Wolfychu does try to play off her voice as being real. Along with that, videos that she's made in the past bring up how her voice makes her life, well, harder because it's higher. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't really see how it would really affect your life in many ways, or even at all. Yet apparently it happens enough that it deserves a video about it. So essentially she's lying if the voice that she uses in her videos is found out to be fake, which also might beg the question, what else is she lying about? Now, onto whether it is or isn't. This point was addressed back in the 2018 drama. The point being, Wolfychu's voice sounded, well, a bit different than when she did her first voice reveal, which it does sound different. A lot different.
Hello everyone, this is Wolfychu. I am the clumsiest person I know.
There's quite a big difference. I know someone out there is gonna say that it's a result of being mic shy, which at first may seem like a reasonable argument until you realize that when you're mic shy, the pitch of your voice doesn't really change. And if it does, it usually makes your voice higher, not lower. To be honest with you, I never really understood mic shyness all that much. I mean, all it is just a girthy cylinder that sits a little uncomfortably close to your mouth. Now wait a minute. Going back on that same argument, when you watch Wolfychu's videos back to back,
Hello, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone, hi everyone. I am.
you tend to notice that her voice is, well, what's the word for it? Well, inconsistent. Go. Now wait just a second there. That didn't sound like Wolfychu. And in pretty much any case, your voice gets higher when you start laughing, not lower. It's likely it was the middle of the transition from her fake voice to her normal voice, as I'd assume that it'd be harder to laugh in a fake voice. But once again, that would be me assuming that her voice is fake, and that's, well, impossible! Oh wait, there's another public moment where she's out of character and using more of a real and relaxed voice.
Have you ever had that before?
You know, I don't even know why I have to put up such an argument for this. Her voice doesn't even sound remotely real. I addressed this in one of my old Wolfychu videos that she doesn't really improve, and unfortunately, that hasn't changed. In fact, her content has very much, well, declined ever since then, or, in other words, fallen. Now, before you argue that art style and art in general is subjective, let me say something. Like all things that are subjective, there are still an objective way to judge those subjective things. One way that you can judge it is taking in the effort and passion that went into it. This only being one of many probably ways to judge things objectively. I'd also say this is a pretty fair way to judge it too. Along with that, judging Wolfychu by effort and passion, I really gotta say there's hardly any. As an example, switching to an easier style to draw with probably doesn't show too much effort or passion. Also judging her stories, which I'd say stealing from another channel to later then collab with that person later on isn't the best way to show your passion and effort. But one could argue that it's also just my opinion and Wolfychu didn't copy, it was only just a coincidence. Yeah, I'm really sure it was, and I'll talk about that later. After all, this part's supposed to be about her declining content. And comparing her older videos that were somewhat animated to her newer videos that are hardly animated. The most animation you'll get out of Wolfychu is probably a character gliding across the screen or a simple blink or just a slight move, which most probably would say that's not much animation.
But she calls them animatics now.
And animatics are unfinished animations and are usually very messy. These videos are clearly finished products. Another thing to talk about that would probably be brought up in the comments would be Wolfychu now doing lip sync. I mean, it's sort of new and could count as an improvement, but considering what I'm about to bring up, I wouldn't consider it to be much of an improvement. In the description in pretty much all of Wolfychu's videos, there is a line that says, "Thank you to SteveDender for editing." This means if the lip sync was done manually, Wolfychu wouldn't even be the one doing it. I doubt it's even done manually. And my reasons for that absolute off-the-wall conspiracy theory is that Wolfychu started having lip sync in her videos about a month after the release of auto lip sync in Animate CC. And I wonder who owns a copy of Animate CC. Oh wait, that's right, SteveDender does. I don't know about you, but this seems to be a bit more than just a coincidence. Well, a lot of things that Wolfychu does seems to be a bit more than just a coincidence. Before we get on to this, let's give clickbait a meaning. Clickbait, the art of crafting a thumbnail or title in a deceptive manner. So for something to be clickbait, it really wouldn't even need to be interesting. It just needs to be deceptive in a sort of way. With that in mind, let's jump in. So would this be clickbait? What do you think? Yes. Well, would this be clickbait? Well, to know if it is or not, I must try this myself. Ugh. Well, I guess you can. Clickbait? Well, to know, we must look at the context.
I walked into the cafe feeling pretty nervous. I tried to convince myself that it was going to be fine, I could do this job, and all that they were going to do was ask me a few simple questions. But I couldn't get thoughts out of my head like, what if I was going to be taken into somewhere like an interrogation room where they would shine a light in my face while demanding answers to their questions?
So yes, it is clickbait. Copying? Yes. Clickbait? No. Clickbait? Well, unless Wolfychu is scared of Jordan lactating, then yeah, I'd say it's clickbait. Well, I think you know the answer to this one. The story, it has one person, but in a thumbnail, it shows a crowd. Along with taking in the context where this thumbnail shows up in the video.
You know how everyone has those nightmares in school that maybe one day they might show up to class wearing really weird clothes, or just their underwear? Or even no clothes at all?
Yeah, I'd say it's clickbait. This one, however, isn't clickbait. Made up? Maybe, but not clickbait. And I can't believe I almost forgot this one. So is this clickbait? Well, kind of. She sort of just sprinkled the fear in there about the pool filters and moved on, so ultimately, no. But a made up fear? Probably. Oh boy, where do I even start? How about when Wolfychu wanted to be Emerchu for about 3 videos? You may call it a coincidence, but I call it Wolfychu running out of ideas. Wait a second, what does that say? Emerchu and I were both after-school carers? Emerchu and I, one of us? Why does Jordan all of a sudden start speaking as if he was Wolfychu? Was it that he thought he was Wolfychu for a moment? Or was it Wolfychu forgetting that she was trying to play as Jordan? I don't know, but one seems to be more reasonable than the other. But let's assume that this is Wolfychu because I really wouldn't put it past her. If it is Wolfychu, then it would mean that this is just Wolfychu complimenting Wolfychu. Man, give yourself a pat on the back, Wolfie. You really need a rest after all that circle jerking. But that's just one example. For another...
Because she's a little shorty.
No, I'm not short. I'm average height. And there were some kids who were even the same height as me too.
Now, a contradiction about 4 videos later doesn't really say much, but what about a height comparison? With a little Googling, we can find that Jordan is about, 5'10". Using that information, if we can find Wolfychu and Jordan in the same frame, which I have a frame where they are, we can use the comparison of a 5'10 model and a 5'5 model. We can see that Wolfychu is about 5'5", if not taller. which means that Wolfychu is not short but average height. Going back on the why I quit teaching video again, I really must beg the question of why the fact of you being a teacher wasn't brought up in an earlier video. For example, what about the living with my voice video? That would have fit somewhere, or even the embarrassing school stories video, but I guess we only need one made up story for the thumbnail, huh?
So I stood in the middle, feeling really happy and ready to start playing. But then, as I was standing there, I suddenly felt somebody grab onto my shorts from behind and pull them down to the ground. I just had to take a moment to realize what had just happened.
Hey, remember when Wolfychu said that she looked like a child, specifically a 10 to 11-year-old? I really must say, Wolfychu, you just look your age. Especially seeing you next to a kid, you definitely look like an adult. Not to mention, but you're crouching down and jutting your neck out. Well, either that or you just have no neck. And you're doing this to look shorter, I guess? Well, I guess you do look shorter, and who would have possibly guessed that you're crouching and jutting your neck out? And of course, we can't forget, anime physics.
Suddenly decided to run back inside, and I went crash through the glass. I didn't realize right away what happened. I remember the glass flying everywhere like it was moving in slow-mo. I was standing next to the teacher, picking up some books that were on the ground, when all of a sudden this huge gust of wind came out of nowhere and blew my dress all the way up.
Sweet! It looks like a little peppermint candy wonderland.
Line clipping.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the f*** is that?
I think I'm about to have an aneurysm. Like, are you even trying? Now listen, I know what you're gonna say, but these are just samples and you're just generalizing the content. You can pretty much go on any video, go to a random frame, and find line clipping. You know, Wolfychu, there are programs out there that have dedicated tools to removing line clipping, don't you? And the actual animation software too. Now, this might not be very surprising considering Wolfychu's personality, which I'd argue that she doesn't have one, but that's besides the point. I'd have to say Wolfychu is quite, petty. If you don't know what I'm talking about, which it's likely you don't, let me explain. Back in May of 2019, Wolfychu decided to share a very unpopular opinion on bullying. You can tell it's a very unpopular opinion from the title alone. My honest thoughts on bullies. But what was this unpopular take on bullying that Wolfychu made? Well, it was, get ready for this, and I mean brace yourself. Bullying? Bad. I know, it's a very unpopular opinion and very brave of her to share. Along with that was something that just really needed to be talked about. It's not already implied that Wolfychu doesn't like bullying or anything like that. I would have never guessed. But enough with the sarcasm. I mean, after all, sarcasm is the lowest form of humor, and yet I doubt Wolfychu wouldn't even be able to pull that off. Anyways, Wolfychu started going off on cringe compilations, which were relevant back in 2016. But I have a question for you. Who used to make cringe compilations that Wolfychu might have a personal vendetta for? I guess this is what you call handling it well. For some odd reason, Wolfychu has this weird obsession with being an anime girl. I was not aware that being retardedly clumsy made you an anime girl. You know, a normal person would name the video just clumsy moments or something like that. But I guess you're just trying to mask your retardation as being cute. You know, I haven't seen too much anime, but I say I've seen a good amount. And for what I've been able to tell, usually an anime girl wouldn't really be described as being clumsy, or at least most of them. A more all-encompassing way to describe an anime girl would probably be an exaggerated personality. And I'd go as far to say that you don't have a personality. Unless, of course, that's your exaggerated personality of choice. Man, isn't that just a catch-22? But one thing that all anime girls have in common is that, well, they're fictional. All of them. Which I'd go as far to say that that's the highest criteria to be checked off. But then again, we could also go back on this video and see that you are pretty fictional. Perhaps you do have something in common with anime girls after all. That isn't just being clumsy. But I guess in the end, that's just my opinion. All in all, when you dumb this video down, it's just me calling Wolfychu a big ol' liar. a manipulator and a deceiver. Childlike only in personality, and a thief. And of course, the fall being Wolfychu going from a humble animation memer to an egotistical animated storytime YouTuber. With most things that I don't like, I can usually see someone else liking it, but when it comes to Wolfychu, I have a hard time seeing it. I mean, if I had to describe Wolfychu's content, it would be
Poo-poo. Poo-poo. Pee-pee poo-poo.
but that's probably just me. I also don't take it very lightly when people abuse the word animation, like how Wolfychu does. And just because actual animation can't survive on the platform anymore doesn't give you the right to redefine animation. It only devalues channels posting actual animations on the platform, some of which are not just surviving but thriving. So perhaps that phrase might not hold as much truth as it used to. But once again, that's just my opinion. And of course, it does not matter. Anyways, I'm SteveDender, and I think daily uploading is called chronic masturbation. And of course, I'll see you later, virgins.